Hi everyone, welcome to Trusted Tech Talks. It's our new and improved product top tips. I'm going to ask 10 questions in 10 minutes where we dive into the minds of the leaders within the product community. Each episode will ask 10 thought-provoking questions, giving our leaders just 10 minutes to share their insights, challenges, and opinions. So whether you're a product leader, a manager, designer, or just passionate about tech innovation, this is your chance to hear it from industry leaders. Today, we are joined by Bob Holt, who has 15 years working within tech and has worked for the likes of Sky, Conveyor, and Brown as a product leader for the last 8 years. How are you?
Hi, Rihanna. Great, loving it. Great to be here and looking forward to this.
Good. I mean, how many podcasts is it this week? Is it your fourth, your fifth?
Oh, this is my third one this week. I got a bit of spare time, so fill it up with we chatting to different people. It's a really interesting way to spend some time.
That's it, isn't it? At least this is only a quick one. It's not one of those where you're talking for an hour or two. We did that
That's
on
it.
purpose, the 10 in 10.
Yeah, make it a little bit easier to swallow. Yeah,
Easier or sometimes harder, especially if you've got to prep your questions beforehand.
that's it.
Well, I'll just kick us off then, really. Obviously, the first question is just quite open and generic. So, what attracted you to a career in product?
Oh, that's it's always a good one. So I'm a natural problem solver. So um, I was always going to end up in a job that was involving solving problems. At university, I was an engineer. Failed at that. Ended up doing a maths degree. And anyone who knows me will tell you I have that horrible habit of you're busy sharing a problem, my brain's racing ahead on how I can fix it, as opposed to offering emotional support for how we're doing that. So problem solving's how I'm wired. But beyond that, I think there's something incredibly validating about seeing your work live in the world, where you can make a real difference to people through the products that you build and how they use them. In product, you get to identify problems worth solving and then craft solutions that actually impact users' lives. So that combination of intellectual challenge, tangible impact is what keeps me passionate about product management.
Nice. And obviously, you had a bit of a every product person comes from a different background and different way into products. So, you started off as a project manager and kind of went into products. How did you make that transition? Obviously, that is an on the spot question, by the way.
So that bit that made me move into products is that turning point. So I was a project manager at a digital agency. Um, if I'm honest, I wasn't particularly good at it. I was always a little bit too curious about why a client wanted to do something, rather
Yeah.
than just focusing on what they wanted to do. I remember this one phone call where afterwards my boss said, "I thought you were talking to a client, but then you said that's a stupid idea. We shouldn't be doing that." And and she realised when I told her that I was, I think the only thing that kept me in that job was my clients that actually valued that kind of direct feedback. Um, from there, it was a relatively short hop into product when an old client of mine who valued exactly that offered me my first proper product role. And that transition allowed me to channel my natural tendencies, where challenging assumptions and finding better solutions was actually part of the job description.
Yeah. Oh, nice. And that's it, isn't it? Sometimes you don't start off where you want to be, but ultimately
Yeah.
you'll always
End up
find
in
your
the
way,
right
won't you?
place. Yeah.
And I guess looking back at your career so far and kind of where you're up to, what sort of pivotal moment or decision do you think has shaped your career to where you are today?
I think that validation. So that story I just shared, the client who come back to me, he was just like, look, I always love working with you. I'm doing this thing. I want you to come and work with me on it. And it was a bit like, oh, not sure, startup. It's a little bit risky, but that validation from somebody who was really putting it all on the line in terms of building out their kind of vision and saying, no, you are the person I want to come and kind of work on this, um, was great, and it kind of really opened up that door in terms of kind of what we're doing, and never really looked back at kind of anything else since. So coming away from all of that experience and I always say everyone should work in a startup at least once, um, just so you know how good you've got it in an organization that has systems of work and expected practice and kind of all those things. But loved every minute of my time at Innovern, and a lot of love and respect goes out to Julian for the person who kind of really pulled me into that kind of product management career.
Nice. And that's it, startups. Everyone thinks they want to work in a startup, then once they're actually in the startup, it's like, whoa, a blank
Yeah.
canvas isn't always a great thing.
I think I've got a blog post floating around somewhere in the past that talked, basically the title was, "Do I want to work in a startup again?" And I think it got to the point where there was a lot of conditions, and it was like, I'm not talking about a startup now. So I think the answer is no, I'm all right.
At least you know. I guess then, because obviously the last sort of 8 years, 8 years ago, you started going into that senior lead level at Sky. And then obviously you moved then into leadership at Conveyor before the last sort of 4 years at M Brown. So I guess how did you manage that transition going from that product manager into a leader within the product team?
Yeah. I found this question it like fascinating to think about, like that opportunity to reflect.
Yeah.
Early on, I managed that transition very clumsily. I think I went through a fairly frustrating period where I believed that my ability as a PM meant that I deserved those roles,
Yeah.
and kind of fought a bit too hard, kind of for them. So when I finally got my first proper leadership position, the reality then starts to hit. I kind of found
Mm,
myself unequipped with the skills that I needed to do that. And in particular, I hadn't realized how challenging it is to set and maintain a constructive environment for product and product managers to work kind of within an organization. So the kind of a brute force approach to any problems that I had in the past is not something that works in that kind of step
mm,
up into leadership. I had to relearn how to do the job, working through a team, empowering and supporting them rather than doing everything myself. Um, so for anyone making that transition now, I think it's a focus on kind of three things. You need to focus on your people. So can you confidently back your team and their decisions? They might not make the same decision you'd make, but you need to trust that they're thinking in the right way. Um, you got to think about your systems. So do you have processes that catch people's weaknesses while also elevating the strengths of the team? And then the third area is strategy, and that's really as simple as,
mm.
do you know what you want worked, what do you want being worked on, and why, so that you can make sure that people are pulling in the right direction, to help you achieve what you need to achieve as a leader.
Perfect. And this kind of leads on to the next sort of question. What skills or qualities do you think are the most important to have for someone who's aspiring to become a leader within product?
Yeah, so there's the there's those there's that step transition I just mentioned around, got to move from working myself to working with others, and in particular ensuring that your team are successful.
Mm,
But if I think about some of the skills that you need to have as a leader, I think commercial awareness, so understanding value creations, paramount. Every decision needs to tie back to business outcomes, and the value that you're kind of creating. I know we need to keep kind of customer at the forefront, but customers are here to kind of create that value for the business. And we shouldn't expect it, so we meet their needs, but we have to keep that value focus. I think collaboration, so knowing how to work effectively with diverse stakeholders and teams. It's not really about being the smartest person in the room, or always being the person that's right. It's about bringing the right people together and creating an environment where good decisions get made, and executed. And then I think finally, talk about kind of curiosity. So we're in an age, of booming new kind of technology. If
mm,
you're not at least curious about AI, how that could work, how that could change your product or deliver better for your customers, then you're not going to survive. You need to stay curious and keep
Yeah.
learning about these new things, because what was feasible today is not necessarily the same as what was feasible a year or two ago, or when you last had your hands dirty working really closely with engineers.
No, definitely. And it's such a big topic at the moment, isn't it? AI in product, and kind of in that same realm as a big topic in product, I guess burnout is a huge thing going on in the industry at the moment. I guess when you've managed teams, how do you maintain that motivation and kind of avoid the burnout in a demanding career like product that is also misunderstood?
Yeah, but Burnout's burnout's a big challenge. I think it's genuinely hard to kind of look after yourself. But um, I need to consciously look after the bit of myself that's willing to go to battle for what's right, even when I
Yeah.
know there's no real win in it. So I need to spot that. But as change agents, which all product managers are, burnout's a real risk. It's a real problem kind of in the industry. Constantly advocating for better is hard and tiring work. So product managers need to learn to spot the signs of burnout and make sure they're working to look after themselves.
Mm,
The best habit I found is to make sure that you fall back onto your craft. So you need to find time for that deep work. You need to speak with your customers, run creative sessions on strategy, do some ideation, actually focus on what your customers actually need and how your strategy moves the business forward. Get excited about your roadmap and let some of the noisy but unimportant issues drop
mm,
and fade away for a little while. I think recognizing that you simply can't fix everything, so you need to focus on what you can control. Um, just and make sure that you're taking that space kind of for
yeah.
yourself.
Control the controllables. My boss says that all the time.
Love that phrase. It must be super relevant in your line of
Yeah.
work as well.
And I use it in my personal life as
Yeah.
well. Just if anything's not right, I'm just like, just control what I could control. I guess obviously product, it's a weird and wonderful world. We love it. It's full of
Yeah.
creativity. It's full of new things and new ideas. But I guess what do you think is the biggest misconception about working in product, and why do you think that is?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest misconceptions is it's just about the software that you build.
Yeah.
And it absolutely isn't. It's about everything that's needed to deliver value. Products about bringing the business and its diverse skills together around solving those customer problems in ways that make money. This means that product thinking can and should apply to a whole host of business processes, services, platforms. Great product management extends
Yeah.
far beyond feature development to encompass all the things needed to kind of go to
Mm,
market, the pricing of the product, support processes, and internal tools that enable successful business operations. If we just limit our thinking to the digital products or software that we put
yeah.
out, we miss that bigger picture of value creation. The most effective product managers I've seen understand that broad context. They think holistically and they build relationships that enable them to influence beyond the stuff that is just the bit of code that's delivered.
Yeah. No, perfect. And obviously, products has been around, it has been around for a while, but I'd probably say since 2020 was kind of where product transformations really took off and it became the
Yeah.
next buzzword in the tech world. How do you think product has changed in the last 5 years?
Um, let's not start with, well, McKinsey and Deloitte and everyone now sell it. But I think there's one big word kind of in here. It's value. So the
Yeah,
landscape has shifted towards value creation and capture. There's no longer kind of cheap money. And investments a lot more expensive. Businesses have to be a lot tighter about
yeah,
where they're investing. So we can't throw money at ideas that might not work.
yeah,
So today's product teams need to demonstrate that clear impact on business metrics, customer outcomes. We're not gonna be left room for large experimental kind of phases, or that, oh yeah, we'll just take this into discovery for a couple of months. We need to be clear on our metrics. We need to ship quickly, and we need to learn quicker,
Yeah.
and to make sure that we're doing that. If we're not making an impact, you're going to really struggle to kind of maintain an effective role kind of in this industry. Um, Product teams being forced to become more disciplined around prioritization and measurement of outcomes, which is great. That extra added discipline on the role
Yeah.
will only help people succeed. But yeah, value. Be aware of it.
And obviously, all these years of being a leader, you've probably worked with so many product people over the last sort of 8 years. What do you think is the biggest sort of common mistake that you see people make very early on in their career that you wish you could tell them, don't do
Yeah.
that, please avoid?
No, I think the biggest mistake is mistaking taking ownership for simply saying no. So that tendency to believe that a strong product manager means rejecting stakeholder requests because they haven't come through a pure product management approach, can lead to kind of alienating people who support that you need to be successful. So PMs need to start to try and treat every feature request as an opportunity
Mm,
um, to learn about why that request is being made, what it means for their customer, what it means for their product. I think one of the bits of advice that I wish I'd received early on, um, is that you don't need perfection to win.
yeah.
You don't, it doesn't need to be perfect. And if you have reflective practice built into what you're doing, you can count those small wins as you go along, and reflect on the impact that you have, because it's a long-term game,
Mm,
product management, and you're better off building credibility, building alliances, over a longer period of time than being right on any single decision.
yeah, no, perfect. And obviously for you now, as you move forward and you look ahead and you look towards the next phase of your career, is there any sort of goals and challenges that you are really focused on achieving?
Yeah, as I said, that self-reflection piece is
Yeah,
important, right? So there's two big challenges for me. Um, One is being better at scale. So how do I become a more effective coach? How do I
yeah.
define clearer direction, set better strategy with my product teams, so that we can support them to work at a faster pace and have truly rapid kind of learning cycles. Products ultimately a people business, and I need good product
Mm,
people to be a good product leader. So ensuring that I'm doing that effectively,
yeah,
is really important. The second part for me is around, goes back to that curiosity point. How am I leveraging AI? What superpowers do I want it to give me? I'm
yeah.
fascinated by the number of tools that are around and how they can augment kind of capabilities in discovery, analysis, decision making. I think the product leaders who figure out how to effectively integrate AI into their team's workflows are going to be the ones that have a significant advantage. You can't ignore it. So I'm
Yeah.
dabbling with all sorts of stuff at the minute. It's great.
That's it. You can't ignore it. You need to embrace it
Yeah.
and find it in a way that works for you, don't you? And obviously onto that, I guess, what do you think is going to be the next trend for the next 2 years and why and how do you see that impacting the market?
Yeah, so AI again, obviously, but it's more that automation at scale, I think, is going to
Yeah.
be that dominant trend. So product managers are going to gain the ability to conduct discovery at unprecedented scale. Delivery teams are going to be able to use prototyping AI to deliver and accelerate the speeds at which kind of work can be done. Um, so you get this real speed up,
Yeah.
which means that there's this real then challenge then around how we go through this phase of this being unevenly distributed. right? So what is that going to mean for how I manage people? The person with AI driven superpowers versus the organization that still hasn't realized how it gains those same superpowers at an enterprise level. It's going to manage some of those people challenges really well, and the ones that get that right, the environment for people to scale without feeling like they're being punished with additional work
Yeah.
are going to be the ones that really gain that competitive advantage through talent recognition and retention. So
Perfect. And that's a wrap for our podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to everyone who's been listening. As always, check out our social media and LinkedIn channels. There's plenty of events, podcasts, roundtables that are happening at the moment. Keep your eyes peeled, as our next podcast will be coming very soon.